Okay, Marta, thank you very much for joining us. So Marta is a polyglot and an IT specialist and also a blogger and also a Ukrainian teacher. And I'm sure she'll have a lot to tell us today. So whenever you're ready, please fire away. I think you're muted. We can't hear you yet. Okay, so while we're waiting for Marta, I'd just like to remind you that you're welcome to write any questions in the chat. Якщо ви маєте якісь питання, ви можете їх написати у чаті.
Hi again, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. So whenever you're ready, please start.
Okay, sure. So hi everyone. I know some of you know me already. So yes, I do some things in life, so a couple of things in life. And I also like promoting Ukrainian language. Like one of my biggest mission was always to make it more popular among polyglots, because this is where I usually teach Ukrainian. And I want today to tell you a little bit more about the presentations that I did, the courses, and everything else. I hope you can see my presentation, because I cannot see anything else anymore. So
you can see your screen навчати українською.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I am switching that further. So I won't take much time, but I really need to share all of this information. So first of all, since 2015, I think I was doing presentations, workshops of Ukrainian language for polyglots. And every time I was thinking about how to do it a little bit differently. And I didn't succeed all the time, but still my first attempt was to do an introduction to Ukrainian. So that was my first presentation of Ukrainian. Yes, it was in 2015, I think. So first of all, I didn't know exactly what I should prepare, what I should do. And some preparation was, obviously I did some preparation, but I also had to improvise a little bit. For example, I found out that one of the girls who is going to come to the workshop, she had a birthday at the same day. So at the last moment, I had to modify my presentation and to add some congratulations, how to say hello, how to say yeah, congratulations, how to wish everything good. And that was really interesting. And also I saw that many people came to that presentation, so I knew that there will be people who are interested. But I also saw mistakes that I did, that I didn't prepare enough for answering some questions. And till today, I feel like this one question that people asked me, and I gave a response which I'm not satisfied with. And yes, it had some consequences. I don't want to say exactly what was it. Maybe I can say it in private, but not to the camera and to the recording, but it haunts me. It haunts me till today, that mistake. So, but I learned after that yeah, when I don't know exactly, maybe it's better to not tell anything. The year after that, I made Ukrainian for beginners with 1G. And at that time, a bit less people came because they thought that it's going to be the same. And it's a shame, because a lot of things that I added to this presentation were different. Obviously, I always show basic phrases, etc. But this time I also put some cultural aspect. For example, I read a poem so that people could listen to Ukrainian language and to hear how good it is. And I also started it, with a song, and it was a very tricky thing because it was on I think it was the 2nd of June or something. So it was like literally one of the first days of June. And I started my presentation with a song, you know it as Carol of Bells. And everyone like, what's going on? It's not Christmas time. And that was my attempt to attract attention to this song, that actually this is a Ukrainian song written by Ukrainian composer. And it's called Shtedrik. I know that many people who learn Ukrainian already know that, but at that time I was really proud of myself of showing this. Yeah, I also named 5 reasons why people should learn Ukrainian. And after that presentation, one polyglot told me that he's going to learn it. We lost some contacts later, so I'm not sure if he continued, but at least he was motivated after my presentation to do this. Then I decided I need to get more creative, and I made Ukrainian with Disney. I just took some catchphrases from Disney movies in Ukrainian translation, and I also tried to modify them to something useful. So I didn't just pick any phrases, but the phrases that could be more or less used in life. And then I thought, okay, I should be more realistic. And the next presentation was called All About You in Ukrainian. So I thought, what is the best topic we all know? So we know everything about ourselves. Like, I mean, not in a psychological way, yes, but we know what is our name, where are we from, how old are we, what do we do in life. And I also implemented some games and even gave some gifts during this presentation. And I think it was pretty fun, and many people also remembered how to present themselves. And this year I did, I can hear someone. This year I did Ukrainian in 3 hours online and Ukrainian in 3 hours offline. So I participated in 2 gatherings, one online, one offline, obviously. And I decided to make like a set of 3 lessons. So to share as much information as I can to teach polyglots. So obviously I gave phrases, general phrases. I shared some grammar, and also for cultural aspect, I showed songs. I did mostly the same for the presentations, for the lessons in real life, but I also had to improvise the 3rd lesson because I forgot that in the description of my presentations, I promised that at the last lesson we're going just to sing Ukrainian songs, and I just did Ukrainian songs on all the previous lessons for showing one song. So I really had to put together very fastly what I prepared for the 3rd lesson, and then to show as many songs as I could in the rest of the time. But it was also a good reminder for me that sometimes if I write a description of my presentation, then I need to check it before I'm going to do this presentation. Additional to that, I also did a course of Ukrainian for Polish learners. I think I already mentioned it previous time, but I did it in cooperation. So I cannot take a full credit for this course, because there is a company who already created courses for different languages. So I just let them, I just contributed my knowledge of Ukrainian. And this was the most, the best experience for me as a teacher, because in this case, I had to teach people who are not polyglots. So with polyglots, it's pretty much easy because people already have experience in learning other languages, and they know some other languages, and they can compare, they can understand why it is so. They don't ask so many questions. They can maybe ask some questions about pronunciation or something like this. But when I started to teach people who, like regular people who are not polyglots, that was different level. There were so many questions I did not expect, and sometimes I really didn't know how to explain that. And I had to consult my colleagues. I had to just to check some documents, some books, some dictionaries, just to be sure that I'm explaining everything correctly. So this was the most teaching moment for myself, how to teach Ukrainian to foreigners, not only to the polyglots. And thanks to this course, I also noted what are the biggest struggles for learning Ukrainian. So I pointed out three of them. So the first one is listening. Obviously, every time when we learn a new language, we always hear the sounds that are very common, which our ear is used to listen to, right? So there were so many questions about the pronunciation when, for me, it's obvious when I listen to the audio that I recorded, I hear everything fine. So I don't see the issue. I don't understand why people hear something different in that. And this is a great example that like from the very beginning, we don't always think about it, but really like the easiest thing is to listen to something can be really complicated. The next thing is speaking, and I'm not only talking about building sentences, but also about stresses in the words. I got a lot of questions about it, and this is a good note for the future because obviously I want to create a Ukrainian course by myself. I have an idea, I have like the beginning, but yes, it takes me a bit time. And stresses of the words, it's a great topic for the next course because there are some rules and there are things that can make it at least 10% easier for the learners. And also pronunciation. We have the sounds like h, g, and not all languages have this h sound. And this is this is one of the things that learners struggle with. And also a letter E, the vowel E, which is also hard for listening. I never expected that, but people always ask me, but I hear E. And then I thought, okay, I don't usually think about it when I just speak or when I teach, but and sometimes are very similar. And even this is one of the struggles for native speakers, which language to put, because if it's not stressed, it sounds really similar. So yes, this is one of the things. So if it is a difficult moment for natives, then for the learners especially. So those are the things that always have to be very that need more attention from the teachers, and for me, also when I'm teaching other people, and also an advice for other teachers. And obviously grammar, because yes, we can say it's so easy. We have only 3 tenses in Ukrainian, but actually we have 6 ways to use them. Yes, because in the past we have completed action and continuous action. Present, I think we have only 1 way to say, but we have 3 ways to build the future tense. So actually, even though it sounds, oh, you have only 3 tenses, yes, but we have a few different ways how to use them. And obviously cases and conjugations. I always say that it's easier to learn declination of article than cases, but I think it also depends on the previous experience with other languages, and also, as Tim said earlier, if that learner has experience with other Slavic languages, because if you already learned one Slavic language, then cases they obviously they differ a little bit, but you understand the logics, you understand why. And that was also a good moment for me to learn how to teach them. So I have my own approach to teaching cases, because so one step at a time. So the most important thing is to take it slow and to have a lot of patience to this, and to cover each case separately. And then it's much easier to learn all of them, not just in one lesson, but dedicate 7, 10 lessons to the cases, and everything is much easier. And the most important thing, obviously, is to keep going, because yeah, this is a good thing for everyone, for the teachers. So I know that sometimes everyone can get a bit tired and lose some motivation or some discipline. But the most important thing is, even as a teacher, yes, to always continue, obviously to take some breaks and continue with teaching. So I had a little bit break in summer, but now I'm getting to work again. So I'm going to continue actually with this course I mentioned earlier. We are going to have lessons, because people were so excited with the first level, so they want to have a second level, which is not completely ready yet. So we are going just to make lessons for them, and this is very great. I'm very excited, because now I have so much experience. I know what to do, and yes, I hope I will be smart enough to use all of that knowledge and teach them the best way possible. So yeah, this is approximately what I can share from my experience. So I thank you, Дякую. And if you have any questions, I don't know if we have time for that, but if we do, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Marta, and thank you for keeping to time. Do we have any questions? Okay, well, I'll start in that case with a very general question. Now, you mentioned quite rightly that the challenges when teachings of different people with different experiences are very different. So you mentioned that if you're teaching polyglots, it's in a way it's much easier because they have already developed their own way of learning, and a lot of concepts are quite familiar to them. You also mentioned the difference between teaching people with knowledge of Slavic languages and then people who don't have this knowledge, because of course the people with Slavic language knowledge will already be familiar with a lot of the grammar and a lot of the vocabulary. If one is designing a course, then I have the impression there are two competing ambitions. You can make something a course that is broader, that might be useful for a wider public, but is less suitable for any particular sort of subgroup of people. So it's a very general question. What are your thoughts about making a course as accessible as possible to a wider range of people, and against specializing in a specific group of people? Because I have the impression a lot of resources for teaching languages in general, they don't take into account the prior knowledge of the people who are learning, because most of us don't start learning a language without any previous knowledge of any other languages.
Okay, so I understand your question. So that I agree with you that mostly resources don't take this into consideration, and this is obvious, because as many people then we would have to make a separate course for every person. Yes, or maybe group them by a few people and then make thousands of courses. And I think maybe it's possible, but it would take really a lot of time and a lot of effort. So I think that in this case, we also need to have a little bit flexibility from the learners and understanding that it's not so easily possible. Yes, and just to if there is a course when there is no interaction with the teacher and you cannot ask him to assimilate to your needs, yes, then just assimilate your expectations. And if you see that something is too easy for you, okay, you can skip it. If it's something is a bit too complicated for you, then it's always great to have either a partner or a native speaker whom you know, or anyone who could explain to you.
But so what I'm hearing from you is that in a resource, it would be ideally one would have flexibility, so one could study at one's own pace.
Yes, yes.
But okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, we have a question in the chat from Ruth. Is it possible to access your lessons?
Okay, so I have all of my presentations on this website I have here, Think Before Speak. Yeah, you may ask why not Think Before You Speak. It's because thinkbeforeyouSpeak.com was taken, so I took the other best option. So thinkbeforeyouSpeak.com. I posted all my presentations and lessons. And if you want to use the course, which I created with the other company, so there's also a link there. So it is, I think it's in the menu under paid courses. So you can also access it through my website.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, then thank you very much, Marta.
Thank you too.
We will continue with the next talk, which will be given by Maria Kapas Romaniuk from. So Marina, whenever you're ready, please go ahead and share your screen. And
yes, I'm ready. Just a second.
One thing also to the people in the audience, if you're not presenting, please turn off your camera. Thank you. Okay, so Marina, when you are ready, please start. Yes, so we can see your screen, the short course of Ukrainian language for everyday communication at the University of York.
Perfect, thank you. So first I want to thank you for the chance to meet like-minded people. It is very important for us now. And first of all, I want to talk about my background. So Ukrainian, for me, it is not only my mother tongue, not only language of my parents, grandparents, and grandparents, it is also language of my profession. I had a BA and MA degree in Ukrainian language and literature and PhD in Ukrainian, particularly in history of Ukrainian language. In Ukraine, over 10 years, I was an assistant professor in Taras Shevchenko National University in the different departments. I had been teaching international students from Iran, Morocco, Nigeria, India, Turkey as well. I also a private tutor of Ukrainian and had students abroad in the UK too. And at the end of March, I was forced to leave Ukraine for my son's safety. So, short course for Ukrainian language for everyday communication at the University of York. The University of York, especially head of department language and linguistic science, offered me to run that course, and we had it in face-to-face base and also online, and we had 36 students. Face-to-face 18 and online 18. And what's important to say that our students was different age from 20 to 70s from different countries, from the UK, from the USA, Netherlands, France, Australia, and with different motivation. If we talk about motivation and about young people, for some of them it is fun to learn new language, they told me. For some students, Ukrainian was the language of their parents, and one student, she came to the Australia with her parents when she was 4, and now she's 20. And when war started, she told that it started to be very important to her to know that language because it is of her some identification. Some of students were host for Ukrainian refugees, and they need to communicate with Ukrainians and also with especially with children. Some of students relates to the business in Ukraine. Some students is interested in Ukrainian history and previously had been spoken Russian. Also, I had one student with dyslexia, and for him it was very not easy experience, but he did it, and at the end of the course he started not only speak Ukrainian but also speak, because for the first of the course it was very difficult for him. And also that course attended some people who provide humanitarian aid missions. So brief description of the course. Its duration was 8 weeks, 2 hours per week, online or in person, at learners with no or very little Ukrainian. It focused on practical conversation skills in real life situation. We also had a discussion of grammar and basic syntactic structures, and it was providing students the first-hand experience on the Ukrainian language and culture. So the aims was introduce students to Ukrainian basic vocabulary and related grammar, pronunciation, and spelling. And the most important, engage learners to carry on simple conversation in a range of predictable situation in everyday communication. Develop their confidence in communication and also practice in the basic reading and writing. So you can see communication topics that we discuss. So it was introductions and greetings, personal information, family, work and studying, British weather, countries and places to live, air, and also food. If we will look through vocabulary, so it was more detailed information. So it was cognates, geographical names, administrative names, family members, object in room, numbers from 1 to 100, ages, personal possessions, professions, places of work and study, hobbies, fun conversations, streets and public areas in a city, seasons, weather, likes and dislikes, food, adjectives to describe food, dishes. And grammar and focus. In our focus was personal pronouns to address people informally or formally, ty or ви. Personal pronouns він, вона, воно. Pronouns хто, що. Personal pronouns in the accusative case when that you use for introducing. For example, мене звати. Personal pronouns in genitive case to talk about possession. For example, у мене є годинник. Personal pronouns in the dative case to talk about age. For example, мені 20 років. Possessive pronouns in their agreement with nouns. Also, we discussed the gender of nouns, masculine, feminine, neutral. Nouns in plural. And also we discuss nouns in nominative and genitive case relating to geographical names, personal names in vocative case to address people, personal names in genitive case, family relations, nouns in the locative case, places of work, Nouns in the accusative case, work, study, and free time activities. Personal names in the accusative case, to ask someone to the phone. Nouns in the accusative case, for example, я купила каву. Nouns in the genitive case, я не купила кави. Nouns in the instrumental case, вареники з сиром. Prepositions в, на, with the locative case. And different types of adverbs, for example, вранці, вдень, ввечері, вночі. Adverbs of frequency, ніколи, зрідка, іноді, часто, зазвичай, завжди. Adverbs of time for seasons, взимку, навесні, влітку, восени. And particular verb conjugation. Жити, писати, грати, співати, працювати, малювати, готувати, читати, танцювати, вишивати, працювати, навчатися, любити, жити. Also agreement between nouns and adjectives in the nominative case, for example, нова мобілка, the comparative degree of adjectives in the genitive case. And after completing the course, students are able to do a lot of. So I hope they will hold conversation about 20 minutes. Introducing themselves, ask the personal question, describe their family, introduce yourself and others. For example, tell from which countries they are from or which country they would like to visit. Give phone numbers, discuss family relations, talk about age, personal possessions, family members, talk about work, study, and free time activities, talk someone to the phone. Also introduce a country, to talk about objects of interest in the city and their locations, to talk about places of living and study, discuss hobbies, talk about daily routines and their frequency, talk about seasons and weather, express likes and dislikes about weather, discuss what they can buy at the market, describe and compare food, hold a conversation about food, and also give advice. And they can ask and answer simple question, carry on simple conversation, read in Ukrainian, and they try to write in cursive. Now I want to show you some examples of my lessons. So for my lesson, I use the platform Padlet. I put all information for the lesson in one place, and it is very comfortable to use. For example, I can prepare some PPT presentation for every grammar or vocabulary topic. Just a second, I will show you. And we practice that dialogues. I explain, for example, formal greetings, which we use in Ukrainian, how we can say goodbye, informal, formal. So it is one of the topic. Also, it was our first lesson. I demonstrate for my students book that we used. So and I also can put some homework in one place, and I usually send to my student the link to the Padlet where can they find what we did during the lesson, and they can refresh it step by step, and after that do their homework. So we had 8 lessons with different topics. One lesson was with a lot of new information. When we had been studying alphabet, it was not so fast, but it took time to explain all sounds, or how to write, how to read it, how to write it, how to pronounce this, difference between consonants, how to pronounce some vowels, especially I, how to make transliteration in Ukrainian. Also, I want to show you our last lesson. It was about food, and it was about Ukrainian dishes. So, for example, I prepare some PPT presentation about food. It is with picture. After that, it is with word, with the stress. So I read for my students, and they after that repeat after me. And in one moment, I can show them only picture, and they can try to tell me how we call it. And also we have grammar on the same base. For example, we have picture, and we study nouns in accusative. And for example, це кава. Я хочу купити каву. So I explained that after verb купити, we usually use accusative case, and we try all food we had been learning before, and we put it name of food in genitive case, in accusative case. So, and what very important to say, it is our book. Main resource for our studying, it was Podoroji.ua, and developer from the Alberta University in Canada prepare for us special website, especially for my students, because it is very important to see their progress. And using that book, I can go to instructor dashboard and I can see the progress, how many materials every students had been studying at home. So usually for the lesson we use зустрічі, and for homework станції and пересадки. And that course, it is for 26 travels, but we use only some of topic that was the most important for us. So our students needed to register, especially for that website, podoroji.ua.com, because if they will go to the podoroji.ua.com, it is impossible to control their progress, and it is impossible to help them. And what I want to say is studying Ukrainian is very popular now. Not only around the world, but in Ukraine too. We know that a lot of speaking Russian people try to switch on to Ukrainian. And if we will look to the Duolingo, we know that interest to that program studying Ukrainian increased by 577%. And we as Ukrainian teacher, we need to support every learners. And what I want to say about my students, for all of them was students for whom Ukraine is hurt, for whom Ukraine hurts. And it was very helpful to me, because all students understand our circumstances. All students try to support me as a teacher, and I try to support them as students too. And on that picture, you can see my home in Kyiv that I left. And if we will talk about the about how does it feel to teach Ukrainian aimed the ongoing Russian invasion. Sometimes it is difficult. And I think that everyone is a fighter in his place and can help Ukraine. Sometimes I feel like a soldier. It is very responsible to teach Ukrainian during the wartime in Ukraine, to promote Ukrainian language in other countries. It is the way to support our identity, show the world our authenticity as well. It is, for me, it is also one of the way how I can help Ukraine and Ukrainians, as all money from the Deliver course has been donated by the University of York to the charity to the UNICEF Ukrainian appeal. And I want to show you a little video. So what is it? It is value of the food. It is the value of Ukrainian wheat at the moment. And if you ask me about my approach to Ukrainian language teaching, is it change during wartime or no? Yes, it is change. Every lesson I try to add something like video, music, or photos to show people our pain. I try to represent them part of our history or history of our language. I show how Ukraine was beautiful before the war started and what happened after. I demonstrate Ukraine in the European and world context, especially cultural context. And I try to use jokes as essential part of Ukrainian mentality. And every lesson for me, it is the opportunity to draw attention to Ukraine and to current situation. And one of the last question I want to discuss with you, it is why people need to learn Ukrainian. So every person who learn Ukrainian or other language, they have motivation, they have different reasons. For Ukrainians, study Ukrainian, it is now always about self-identification. For foreigners, there are many reasons, particularly millions speak Ukrainian for whom it is a native language, more than 30 million people. Ukrainian is old and growing, has extremely difficult history in which we can see years of linguicide, and we need to prevent the same situation in the future. Ukrainian is the official language of a huge country. Ukrainian is one of the best sounding language in the world. It is soft and musical. Remember about Eurovision and Stefania, and next year the UK will host Eurovision. With Ukrainian, you have an essential tool for understanding the growing political and economic power and of Ukraine in the world context. A lot of people in the world and in the UK in particularly are engaging with Ukrainian refugees. Using Ukrainian language can help to facilitate and keep communication between Ukrainians and British citizens, especially to help Ukrainian children to overcome psychological trauma after separation them from their homes and relatives. And the Ukrainian language has become a language, a symbol of freedom, liberty, and survival. Slava Ukraini! Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Marina. May I I see there was a question in the chat from Oksana. Would you like to unmute yourself, Oksana, and ask your question? Okay. Okay, well, yeah, please go ahead, Oksana.
Yes, hello, everybody. In fact, I was not ready. I was not invited to be a speaker today. I just very, very impressed because of people of Ukraine. I'm really proud of my two previous girls. And I just want to tell, if you need help to learn Ukrainian, you are welcome. Contact me, contact our university. I can give contacts of other people who can teach you Ukrainian. Like this, that's all. I don't want to waste your time. Thank you. And my email was wrong. Sorry. I just write another one. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any more questions for Marina?
No, Marina was great.
Right. Yes, a question for Marina in the chat here from Chris Coy. When teaching children, did you notice anything unique about their openness to learning?
When I teach children Ukrainian, it is usually children for whom Ukrainian is heritage language. So it is language of their parents. And it depends on the age. If it is young children, for example, I've got one student, she's 4, and she's really open-minded person. She tried her best, and her mom really helped her. But if we discuss teenager, it could be different. Sometimes teenagers try to be, they are ashamed to speak Ukrainian. So it is natural for them speak English, and it is not easy for them speak Ukrainian. And their parents try to use also different way to study Ukrainian. They visit Пластівські табори, when children can communicate with Ukrainian children from Ukraine, and it is like speaking club, big speaking club for them. So young children are more open-minded to study language, and we know the theory is that until 11 years, if children study language, it is like they will study it is like native language, and it will be the same methods. But after 11 years, it is more difficult for them, because every new language will be for them like foreign language. And I can see that it is true, because if it is a teenager, it is they need to have good motivation to study Ukrainian. If it is younger than 11 years, it is very open-minded. Children.
Okay. So sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but because we are behind schedule, we'll have to go on to the next speaker now. But thank you very much for your presentation. And I'd like to ask now Ruth Darby to start her presentation.
Hello.
Hello, Ruth. Yes, please.
Hello. Yeah, I've got the camera on and open the share thing, display that. Okay. Hello. Thank you very much for having me. Really, what I want to talk about is learning Ukrainian and helping people learn Ukrainian and persuading people to learn Ukrainian and I would like to persuade other people to persuade people to learn Ukrainian. So learning for me is about paying attention, is about community, and it's about exposure. And I started in February by writing Ukrainian phrases for schools. I don't speak Ukrainian, so I had help from online. But really, I wanted schools in the UK to have a little phrase book just for basics. So I created this, and we put it on the Northumberland County website so that all the schools can access it. And I also contacted a Ukrainian voice actress, so she was able to read the phrases so that teachers in schools would be able to get the pronunciation right. And of course, for me as a learner, then creating the video that links the voice actress with the phrases was extra attention. So hopefully that helped me learn a little bit more. I also did a little book with some text that's a little bit like this. I don't know if you can see the screen closely enough, but just with Roman alphabet, because at the beginning I was just such a beginner. I still am. But incorporating Ukrainian words into English text. And the idea with that, this is a book for English speakers who are hosting. The idea with that was to just to break down the barrier for people who think that Ukrainian's too difficult for me, so I'm not going to do it, and to get those blinkers off and go, okay, it's not actually impossible, we can do this. So we got that published that book actually is available. Is it perfect? No, by no means. And if anybody would like to improve on it, work on it, it's free today on Kindle, and then I'll be taking it down again just because I think it's not quite good enough, really. But I did sell some and raise money for the Disasters Emergency Committee, so that's a good thing. And if anybody would like to work on that, then of course get in touch with me, Ruth at SpanglishFantastico.com. So that's that, and oh, my dog's contributing. So we made a video of that as well. I actually voiced it because it was mostly in English, and reading those sentences with Ukrainian words out loud for a beginner took a lot of attempts, and that gave me more time with Ukrainian words in my head. And that's what I think we need as learners, to actually give the study material that we're looking at headspace. So actually to hold things in our head. And that's the same. I'm using Duolingo. So with Duolingo, when I read a sentence or study a sentence, I'm going to hold it in my head, and then I'm going to write it down, and I can show you my big book of Duolingo sentences. So always making notes. But I also thought, especially when I first started, I looked at the alphabet section to learn the Ukrainian language, and I hope this is useful for other people who want to learn Ukrainian. And I took all the cognates and made simple sentences with them, just because I'm a very slow learner, and so I need to come across a word many times, like 3 times a day for a fortnight, before it sinks into my head. So for me, to write it and then to put it into a document, to share it with a voice actress, then to get it back, to link it to a video, and then to polish that video and put it online. That gives me enough exposure to remember the words. Okay, and I did that with the verb to like. With the numbers, I needed face-to-face help. So we have a local group, Anik Homes for Ukraine support group. And I just wrote on there, please, I need some help. And this lady, Oksana, got back to me within like 20 minutes. So she helped me, first of all, with the numbers. And it's just made such a difference being face-to-face. So that was wonderful. But actually being able to talk to Oksana, I imagine that I can talk, and I have these conversations in my head. And then when I go to her, we fall down so quickly. So this is what I'm doing to practice Ukrainian. I think it's useful. This picture is my washing up bowl. So I'm talking with another beginner on Messenger. He's Dave, and he's in Pittsburgh in America. We can share text, we can share voice messages, we can share images, and we're both doing the Duolingo course. So we share vocabulary. We know what each other knows in Ukrainian. Right, but I want to, as I say, inspire people to learn Ukrainian. Even though I'm a beginner myself, I want to try and get other people to join in. So I went to visit my local high school, the Duchess Community High School, and their motto is building relationships. So we have 13 Ukrainian children. In July we had, I don't know how many now, in the Duchess High School. So I went and I talked to the teachers to try to persuade them to learn Ukrainian, taught them a few of the basic words that I know. And this is what I got back. This is from the computing teacher. And I want to read this quote because I think what he's saying as a high school teacher is really valuable. He says, I feel we need to support Ukrainians more in school, and it requires dedicated time. The situation in Ukraine won't change significantly in the short term for people to return, so we need a long-term plan. The powers that be need to allocate us time to build meaningful schemes of work and learn the language to build relationships. And that, I think, is beautiful that high school teachers have that attitude towards learning Ukrainian. So Oksana and I worked together, and we created 2 groups of lessons to use in schools. We've got short video lessons. You can see the length of them, 7 minutes, 6 minutes. And we printed, we made PDF materials using cognates. We wanted them to be easy to say. We wanted them to be fun. We wanted the teachers to be able to learn with the students. So we've made 2 groups of lessons with materials so that teachers don't have to do the preparation. They're learners themselves, and they can learn with their classes. They're on this website, which is my little, this is my little YouTube channel. So they're on the little YouTube channel, but really everything's brought together on my website. I teach Spanish normally. So on my website, I've got a Learn Ukrainian page where I've put all the things that I've done with Oksana and with the other Ukrainian teachers, the course, the resources, the cognates, my Duolingo journey, those videos that I've made to help myself learn. And the other part of it is that community. So with the Anik Community Trust, and I'm hoping that other people can do that with their local community trusts. We have actually organized a class for hosts or for the wider community, for community leaders to come and learn Ukrainian. It's a bit more ad hoc than the amazing course in the University of York, which I would really like to do. But I hope that this is a model that other people can perhaps follow. Anik Library, wonderful, again, negotiated by Homes for Ukraine and the Community Trust. The library have agreed to give us a room for free on a Friday afternoon. So, and we have a volunteer teacher. So the ability to put a course on is there, and hopefully other people's local libraries would also be able to do that. The other thing that I've done is to upload one of the classes that Oksana and I made. And this upload on the BBC is around the country. So if you have materials that you would like to promote learning Ukrainian, you can upload it. It's really quite easy to do. So I've uploaded onto BBC Radio Newcastle. And on the 7th of September, there'll be a little Ukrainian lesson with an interview to try to persuade people, whether it's community people hosting or schools, to learn Ukrainian. So I would encourage you to go on to your local radio station, and the program, as I say, is called Upload. And if you have materials, you can upload them there, and we can get learning Ukrainian a bit more widespread. Okay, right, last thing is exposure. So for me, my learning journey, I have got a link for these wonderful bilingual books, but I'm not at the reading a book stage yet. So I'm on Netflix, and if you go onto your language preferences and the dubbing language, Ukrainian, you get your smorgasbord. It's probably something you already know. And then if you have Language Reactor, which is an app, Language Reactor, and you set the audio language to Ukrainian and the Netflix subtitle language to Ukrainian, then you get it all in Ukrainian, and you click this export button, and then it gives you the text in Ukrainian and in English. And then what I do this is my personal reading, and I've been loving The Sandman, but I also loved Wild Animal Babies. And then I highlight the bits that I think, well, I can understand that. And gradually, I hope that I'll be highlighting all of it. Okay, learning Ukrainian for many people is going to, in the future, perhaps learning language has always been about tourism, but and there have been promises to go to that particular street and to taste the food, of course. But really, for me, these are Ukrainian people in the Northeast, and for me, it's about meeting people from other cultures, and I find that a privilege, and it's just a wonderful thing to do with my life. It's what I want to do, and I know that learning this language and trying to get other people learning this language, for me, is the clearest way I know to show Ukrainian people that I would really like to get to know the rich and beautiful and valuable culture of Ukraine. So дякую for your time, za váš čas. And будь ласка, if you want to work with me on anything, or if you know schools who are learning Ukrainian, or if I can help you, будь ласка, please do get in touch. Дякую.
Дякую тобі за презентацію. We have time for one quick question. Okay, then I'll ask a question. Which I hope is quick. I really like your approach of making materials for schools so that teachers and pupils can learn at the same time from each other. Now, what I can imagine that different pupils will have and different teachers will have different requirements. What could we do as Ukrainian language learners in order to help your initiative?
There's so much work that I would love to do that you just don't have time to do everything. So I'll just say one thing, and that is that there are many Ukrainian resources for schools on a site called Twinkle, and the text is in English and in Cyrillic, but there's no Latin text of the Ukrainian. There's no it's not accessible to anyone who doesn't know the Cyrillic alphabet for how to say those words. So if anybody would like to create some lessons based on those very, very widely used Twinkle resources, then I think that would be really very, very useful.
Right. Yes, I see that you're getting signs of approval of here. I'll just mention one very quickly. One of the great weaknesses of English as a language is the irregularity of its spelling, and so I can imagine that's an extra challenge when writing, in the Roman script. If it was a language with a more regular spelling like German, it would be much easier to do. But because of the funny way in which people write English words, I can imagine that will be a greater challenge. Great. So we should. I will give you some people are asking for contact info for Ruth. I will provide that. We're running behind schedule now, but we should have a break. So my suggestion is that we start again at 17:30, so we have 10 minutes break. So not 19:30, so we have 10 minutes break. So rozpocznemo za 10 chwilin, and apologies for the delay. So I'll stop recording, but I will leave the chat open, okay?